Look Back Library, like when did that come about? How did you get the idea for it?
Well, I got the idea for it from working on a library at a nonprofit based in Fort Collins called Launch. They had a magazine library, and so I took it on as one of my kind of long-term goals to bolster up and try to fill as many holes in their library there in Fort Collins as I could. And it led to a couple of different partnerships, one with the Skateboarding Hall of Fame and one with Trent Martin and Cowtown Skateboards in Tempe, both places that had massive amounts of magazine collections, but they weren't really organized too well. And so I had the time and organized all three of those collections and took notes on who had doubles, who needed certain issues, and did a bunch of transfers so that each collection was more full and had less doubles. And at one point it just kind of led to this light bulb going on about, well, I've really enjoyed doing this for Launch. Maybe I can do this on a larger scale. I usually point to 2015 as the kind of the origin year for the library.
I see your traveling library that you have, and I know you have some issues in here, but do you have like another area where you keep a majority of your stock?
Yeah, the master archive is at my home in San Diego. The van right now, some people, there's misconception that the van has one of everything, or that you can go inside the van and it's a beautiful library, and it's just really a transportation vehicle and RV for me to travel around. I mean, it's basically full of magazines for us to populate the next couple of libraries that we intend to build while out on the road. I'm here in San Antonio now. I'm going to be on the road for another 6 months. We're going to Miami and to Maine and then to Montana. So we'll be building libraries and picking up magazine donations along the way.
Do you strike deals with like old magazines that maybe went out of business and they're like, oh yeah, you're welcome to our old archive?
With Strength, who Christian Strike was the owner, based out of Cincinnati, and I was able to contact him at one point while I was traveling through Ohio, and got to go to his home where he had like 5 pallets of back issues. He donated a bunch to us at that point, about as much as we could carry in the van. And then 2 years later I went back, and he didn't have nearly as much, but still gave us some stuff. I wish that we could find more 70s and early 80s magazines. Transworld gave us a bunch when they cleaned out their office in Carlsbad a couple of years ago, and the Skateboard Mag went to the barracks. Steve gave us a bunch of magazines. It's hard to forecast where magazines will come from in the future, and I do our best. Our best outreach to the public is through our Instagram account for people to hopefully find out about us, or hopefully it leads to some of these bigger caches of magazines that might be tucked in a warehouse somewhere or under somebody's house that just hasn't been dealt with for a long time, and hopefully those won't get recycled and they'll find their way to us, to where we can then disperse them around to our 150 different libraries that we kind of manage around the country.
Have you ever had conversations with the editor at Thrasher?
Michael Burnett.
Did you ever talk to him to see if they had old issues like from
Yeah,
Thrasher?
I've known Michael for a long time, and we have a good relationship, and both Michael and Tony Vitello have facilitated a certain amount of getting us excess stuff that they have, a handful of copies of each of the older ones, but there's not a whole lot of excess to go around anymore.
What is the history of and being a part of it and trying to bring and spread that awareness? What does that mean to you?
I learned about skateboarding through my magazine subscriptions. That ended up being like the one thing that I collected as a kid and cherished, really, and kept in very good shape, and once I went off to college and then started moving around, those magazines came with me. I've worked in skateboarding my whole life. Skateboarding is a huge part of my identity. I feel very fortunate that I've been able to work in skateboarding so long, and so I feel like I owe skateboarding a debt of gratitude, right? And so this is kind of the way that I've found where I can give back still participate and continue to give and be involved,
When you connect with current and former professional skateboarders and you show them some of the magazines, describe what that's like.
So over the past couple of years, I've been putting out an edit of what we call covers discussions, where we sit down with a pro and talk about their covers, get some backstory on these covers. And that's another big part of what I do on these trips is I play private investigator and try and track down these older pros that are well out of the scene, that whether they're living in Florida or on the East Coast or in Minneapolis or wherever it is, and put them in front of their covers and try and see if they're interested in discussing or sharing some of the backstories of those monumental events in their lives. If it's a guy that's had more than one or two covers, generally they have never really seen them all in one place. And so that's where guys will kind of take stock and go like, I have six covers, Kareem Campbell has 6 covers, and it's like, when they've, with Kareem, he hasn't had a cover in a long time, so it's probably been a while that he's even seen one of his covers, much less all 6 in one place. You can kind of see them just kind of taking stock, and you see the pride in their eye, and then also they articulate some of that pride in telling you the stories. And so that's the kind of stuff that I really, really am passionate about and enjoy.
Does Look Back Library have any donation places that can just help for either travel, gas, food, creating bookshelves or anything?
We do sell magazines for collectors that want to get, fill a hole in their 1992 Transworlds or whatever. And we have a handful of benefactors within the skateboard industry that send us product to sell on the road for helping us put gas in the tank, and bookshelves and screws and everything else we need to go. But what it all takes to keep it moving and keep the libraries growing and keep the master archive growing.